Please be seated. Good evening. Welcome everyone to the rainy Palouse, and welcome to the College of Veterinary Medicine graduation ceremony for the class of 2017. My name is Dr. Patricia Talcott, and I will be your Master of Ceremonies tonight. I always say at graduation that graduation is always a bittersweet moment for me because as the Director of Admissions, it was my honor to be part of the admissions process that selected these graduates to our program 4 long years ago. And as I stand up here tonight, 4 years seems just like yesterday. I can still look at many of our students and remember my interview with them. And yeah. And now I get to say goodbye and wish them well. As Dr. Slinker mentioned yesterday, every one of you earned the opportunity to be here tonight. At the time that you applied to our veterinary medical program, there were over 1,200 applicants you were competing against. Not everyone gets to achieve their goals and dreams, and here you sit on the verge of achieving one of your goals. Let me be the first one tonight, and certainly not the last, to congratulate the class of 2017. I would like to recognize some of our students for honors that they achieved during their 4 years here. You might have noticed that when our graduates were filing in this evening, some were wearing cords around their necks. The gold cords are being worn by graduates who are members of Phi Zeta, and that is the National Veterinary Honor Society. Graduates who are wearing silver and blue striped cords have earned their Veterinary Business Management Association certificate, and graduates who are wearing blue cords have earned their Global Animal Health Pathway certificate. I will now introduce our stage dignitaries in the front row, along with all of our regional faculty who are here tonight on the stage to participate in this wonderful event. Please stand as I introduce you, and audience, please hold your applause until all the introductions are complete. So from left to right, we have Dr. Brian Slinker, Dean, Washington State University College of Veterinary Medicine. Just making sure he stood up. Dr. Doug Jasmer, Associate Dean of Student and Academic Affairs. Dr. Ken White, Vice President and Dean, College of Agriculture and Applied Science, Utah State University. Dr. Dirk Vanderwall, Associate Dean, Utah State University, School of Veterinary Medicine. Dr. Bo Brock, Practice Owner and Adjunct Professor, Texas Tech University. Associate Professor, Dr. Rance Sellen. Clinical Associate Professor, Dr. Tammy Grubb. Okay, you can do the woo-woos, okay? Clinical Associate Professor, Dr. Kelly Farnsworth. And this is the last time I will have the honor of introducing our next dignitary at graduation because he will be retiring next month after 42 years of teaching at Washington State University, Dr. Steve Parrish. I don't know if this makes Steve feel older or me older, but Dr. Parrish was one of my favorite instructors when I was a student here at WSU. Our last two dignitaries in the front row are the marshals for tonight, keeping our graduates in line. That's Clinical Associate Professor Dr. Jen Gold and Dr. Leslie Sprunger, Associate Dean of the Washington, Idaho, Montana, Utah Regional Program in Veterinary Medicine. I would also like to introduce the remaining faculty on stage in alphabetical order. We have Clinical Assistant Professor Dr. Andrew Allen, Professor Dr. George Barrington, Clinical Instructor Dr. Jessica Bunch, Clinical Associate Professor Dr. Bonnie Campbell, Clinical Associate Professor Dr. Julie Carey, Associate Professor Dr. Annie Chen Allen, Research Associate Professor Dr. Chris Davies, Professor Dr. Richard DeBose, Professor Dr. William Durnell, Assistant Research Professor Dr. Margaret Davis, Clinical Instructor Dr. Letitia Fanucci, Clinical Associate Professor Dr. Raylan Farnsworth, Clinical Assistant Professor Dr. Cynthia Fox, Adjunct Professor Dr. Bart Gillespie, Associate Professor Dr. Bridie Gillespie, Clinical Assistant Professor Dr. Hillary Greeting, Professor Dr. Stephen Green, Assistant Professor Dr. Jillian Haynes, Professor Dr. Steve Hines, Professor Dr. Donald Knowles, Clinical Assistant Professor Dr. Steve Lampa, Assistant Professor Dr. Pamela Lee, Associate Professor Dr. Linda Martin, Associate Professor Dr. Steve Martinez, Professor Dr. Robert Maley, Associate Professor Dr. Ralph Meyer, Clinical Professor Dr. Dale Moore, Clinical Assistant Professor Dr. Tondi Gwenyama, Associate Professor Dr. Carrie Rude, Professor Dr. Bill Sisko, Clinical Assistant Professor Dr. Rusty Stott, Professor Dr. Jane Wardrop, Associate Professor Dr. David Wilson, and lastly, we have the Palouse Brass here tonight on my right for our musical entertainment. Please give everyone a big round of applause. I do want to remind the audience that there is a professional photographer in attendance that will be taking photographs of our graduates. After the ceremony, you are welcome to return to the stage area to take your personal photographs. So it's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker of the evening. That's Dr. Brian Slinker, who will extend greetings from the College of Veterinary Medicine.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to all you smiling faces here in front of me in the class of 2017, and to all of you family and friends up there in the void where these stage lights make it impossible for me to see you, but I know you're up there. And welcome to all of you who may be out there on the live video stream in the various parts of the regional program. This is the second year we'll have graduated a class that includes students who started at Utah State University 4 years ago. And as we develop the Washington, Idaho, Montana, Utah, or WMU program, the students come from all over the West to our program, so we've started the live stream. So this is a very special day, one on which the many years-long commitment to becoming a veterinarian reaches a huge milestone, your commencement, the onset of the next phase of your life. And we here have all had a hand in getting you to this day, from the nurturing and caring of your family and friends to the many faculty and staff who have helped you along the way over the last 4 years. And as you now set out into the world beyond Pullman, you and we become connected as full-fledged colleagues as you add after your name the letters D.V.M., Doctor of Veterinary Medicine. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it? So as we look forward to your future today, I wanted to spend a couple of minutes talking with you about the connections you now have, the connections among us in this very small profession which you've chosen to enter. Those connections are always there, they're always changing. They tie us together across the rest of our lives and careers, and they do this across many generations of veterinarians. To illustrate this, I want to tell you about my friend Paul Clavino. Dr. Clavino is a 1944 graduate of our college. Paul died last year at the age of 95. He started at Washington State College in the late 1930s, and in 1940 began studies in vet school in a college. He came from Valley, Washington, graduated in 1944. When he started in Pullman, Washington, the vet school was in what was called the Vet Shack. It no longer exists on campus, but that was the home of the vet school, that one small building for the most of the first part of the 20th century. By the time he graduated in 1944, he was in the brand new, wonderful teaching hospital in McCoy Hall, which was built in 1942. I'll tell you about Paul, who became a member of our faculty in 1948. At that time, he was the 6th person hired into the faculty, a class of 40 students taught by 6 faculty for the entirety of 4 years. So things change. You would not have known Paul, but I tell you about him because you're connected to him, even though you're receiving your DVM degree nearly 75 years after because he taught many of us here. He taught and mentored me. Dr. Talcott's already mentioned. He retired in 1985. You don't know him. Dr. Talcott mentioned that Dr. Parrish will be retiring after many years. Paul taught Dr. Parrish. Dr. Parrish taught Dr. Talcott, Dr. Barrington, and others. He taught you. Dr. Barrington taught you. So this goes on, this connection to our history, and I think we need to remember that. And the breadth and depth of those connections are also illustrated by my class, and they can be illustrated by any class that graduates. You might be thinking you're the best class that's ever graduated from Washington State University, but let me tell you, the class of 1980 is the best class ever. So 37 years ago, we were seated, as you are, on the edge of your seats with this incredible mixture of pride and trepidation and expectation. And although we scattered to the winds, we remain connected, as you will. We became teachers, diagnostic pathologists, researchers, specialists, generalists, mixed, small, large animal practitioners, federal, state vets, public health vets, lab animal vets, exotic animal vets. We became artists, screenwriters, lawyers, authors, consultants to the media, reps for pharmaceutical and pet food companies. We still remain connected, and more richly so because of all that diversity of what we've done and what you will do. And we couldn't have imagined that we would have done those things sitting in your seats. So imagine, things will change. You will do wonderful things that you don't now anticipate. And you're not aware of it, but you're already connected to some of my classmates. How many of you use Pasquini's dissection guide in anatomy? Chris Pasquini, Suds Publishing. I don't know if you noticed it was Suds Publishing. That was his dog when we were in school. A bit closer to home, if you did a preceptorship at Deer Park, you worked with my classmate, Dr. Dean Kiesel. Some of you may have had Dr. Kyle Frandl as a diagnostic challenge facilitator or received a scholarship from the Frandl Family Foundation. You were all taught anatomy by Dr. Dave Hammond. So they were here. You're connected to them because of the variety of careers and interests they chose to pursue. and they chose to stay connected to us and give back. And this connection endures for a long time, as far as I can tell. Last summer, I spent a wonderful evening with the class of 1961 on the occasion of their 55th class reunion. There were 20 of them in the room. They had had just as varied careers as I rattled off from my class. And they were very happy to be together 55 years later, enjoying each other's company. So now I ask of you, as you leave here, wherever you go, whatever you do, remember always your connections to each other, to those in the profession who've come before you and those who will come after you, and to us, your alma maters that partner in the WMU program. To those whom you've already connected and those whom you're not yet connected, they're always there to help you, and you'll need to be there to help them. You will have so much to offer this web of connections because of the wonderful people you are, and because you will continue to accomplish and learn so much in a variety of ways as you move on. And as you leave here, I want you to know, we all want you to know, that you know more than you think you do, and you can do more than you think you can do. And we know, therefore, that you will always make us incredibly proud of you. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you, Dr. Slinker. It's also my pleasure to introduce our commencement speaker for this evening, Dr. Bo Brock. Dr. Brock graduated magna cum laude from the Texas A&M College of Veterinary Medicine in 1990. Since 1992, Dr. Brock has owned and practiced at Brock Veterinary Clinic in La Mesa, Texas. Dr. Brock is also a diplomate of the American Board of Veterinary Practitioners and is an adjunct professor at Texas Tech University. In 2007, Dr. Brock was voted Equine Practitioner of the Year by the Texas Veterinary Medical Association. In May of 2014, Dr. Brock published his first book titled Crowded in the Middle of Nowhere, which ranked number 5 on the Amazon best-selling humor list. Please welcome Dr. Bo Brock.
I got a big bottle of water. I may need it. Thanks for letting me come, graduating class. The title for your talk tonight is The Master in the Art of Living. And I was just sitting over there thinking about it, and it sounds incredibly corny to me, so I probably won't say anything about it again. There's two people here that I want to talk to tonight, two groups of people. There's the graduates, and I'm going to talk to you in a second. And then there's all of you people that came here because you love them. Yeah, that's why you're here, because you love these people, and there's a bunch of you, and I can't see you because these lights are so incredibly bright, I can't even see anything. But the first people I want to talk to are the people that love them, so this is for you. I don't know if you realize how incredibly special these people are. I got to doing a little research, and there's 1,521 high schools that funnel veterinary students to this college. And every year, there's about 11,000 of those high school kids that want to be veterinarians. 8 years ago, there was 11,000 people about like this that wanted to be here on this day, and this 130 are the only ones that made it. Yeah. It's pretty amazing. It's a pretty exclusive group. It's a very exclusive group. Let me give you an example. Every year in the United States, 2,900 veterinarians are made. 2,900 students graduate from veterinary school. If you look at the population of the United States, that turns out to be about 1 veterinarian graduates for every 500,000 U.S. citizens. That's the odds of you becoming a veterinarian in 1 year. That's a town about half the size of Seattle, Washington. If you want to compare that, every year in America, about 18,500 medical doctors graduate, which is about one medical doctor for every citizen in a town about half the size of Walla Walla, Washington. If you want to compare more, every year in the United States, about 40,000 lawyers graduate, which means there's one lawyer produced every year for half the numbers of citizens in Lamesa, Texas. But that's not all that's special about these people. I'll tell you a little bit about how much it took for them to get here. When they got into veterinary school, they're smart. You had to be smart to get into this thing. You had to make 3 A's for every B or 6 A's for every C. And then when you got here, you started training. And you went to class or lab or clinics about 36 hours a week. And you studied and prepared outside of school for about that same amount of time, which means in 4 years, these people trained for today for about 11,500 hours. They took over 1,000 quizzes and tests. When they were undergraduates, they took about 120 hours of college, and they studied and they worked for veterinarians. Give them another about 5,500 hours of preparation. So if you put the last 8 years together for these folks, they've spent 17,000 hours getting ready for today. It's pretty amazing if you ask me. And to give you an idea of just how much that is, I went to the infallible internet and looked up how many hours gold medalists trained for the Olympics. And I went to the 3 biggest training venues, which was figure skating, swimming, and gymnastics. And the average gold medal winner trained about 6,200 hours for the Olympics. These people are superstars. They are gold medalists. And so what I want to do now is all of you people that love them, I want you to join me and let's stand up and let's just clap for them for a second. We're proud of you. Everybody that's here is proud of you, and I know how hard you worked. I've got a daughter myself that's a 4th-year veterinary student, and I know what you've been through. But now it's time for me to talk to you guys, you graduates. And I tell you, I had a hard time thinking about what I was going to tell you. When they asked me to talk, I was driving home from College Station, Texas, back to Lamesa, and that's about a 7-hour drive. And I told myself, I'm going to think about what I'm going to talk to the graduates at Washington State University about, and I was searching my brain. It's kind of hard to come up with. I thought of all kinds of stuff you're supposed to say: work hard, go get them, be consistently awesome. But I just wasn't finding anything that really contained what I thought maybe was the essence of what I wanted to tell you. So I got to Waco, Texas, and it dawned on me just what I wanted to tell you. So here it is. A few years back, the American Association of Equine Practitioners had their annual convention in Nashville, Tennessee, and I was there giving a talk on hind end lameness. There's about 200 folks there. It was a morning session, went from 10 to 12. And I gave the talk, and it was like all other talks. When you get done giving the talk, people from the crowd come up and ask you questions. And it's always scary because they're smarter than me and I have to fib. And the older they are, the harder the questions are, and it makes it difficult to answer them. And so everything was going like it always did. I was answering questions, and I noticed that in the middle of the room, there was an old dude sitting there. He was an old dude. I'm not talking like 55, I'm talking an old man. And he'd been sitting there the whole time, and he was looking at me way too close. And everybody had come up and asked a question, and the only two people left in the room was me and that old dude. And I was thinking, this guy is fixing to tear me up like a sow's bed. He hadn't said a word, he just keeps looking at me. So he got up, and he was all stooped over. He looked like a walking comma. And he come up to me, and he stuck his hand out, and he said, "Are you Bo Brock?" And I thought, are you kidding? We've been here for 2 hours. My name is on the door. You've been watching me like a hawk the whole time. And I said, well, yes, sir, I am Bo Brock. And he said, told me what his name is. And he said, I've been a veterinarian for more than 50 years. He said, I practice in upper state New York. And he said, I come down here just to see you talk. And I said, you pretty interested in hind end lameness? And he said, no, I don't work on horses anymore. I haven't worked on horses in 40 years. He said, did you know there's not an airport in La Mesa, Texas? And I said, yeah, I know that. I live there. It's a little town. He said, I wanted to meet you, and I saw you were giving a talk at this convention, so I flew down here so I could meet you. Did I tell you I've been a veterinarian for more than 50 years? And I said, yeah, you said that. And then he just paused. And I thought, this is odd. Why would a guy from upstate New York fly all the way to Nashville, Tennessee to sit through an extremely boring 2-hour lecture on hind end lameness when he doesn't even work on horses anymore? So I was curious, and I said, well, that's mighty flattering of you, sir, but what did you come here for? And he said, I come here to tell you something. Now, don't forget, I'm telling you what I'm going to talk about, and this is where it came from. He said, yeah, boy, I come here because I wanted to shake your hand. He said, because I read that article you wrote, and he said, it's the best article I ever read in my life about being a veterinarian. He said, I've never read any story, any paragraph, anything that was ever written in more than 50 years of being a veterinarian that explained the essence of veterinary medicine better than that article. He said, I graduated from vet school in 1961. How old were you, Bo? I said, I wasn't even born yet. He said, I didn't figure you were. He said, I love that article so much that I ran off 50 copies of it. We got 12 veterinarians in our practice, and we get a constant flow of students. And every time we get a student in there, I give them a copy of that article. I make them memorize it, and then I give them a quiz over it before they leave. That's how much I love that article. And I said, well, I don't know what article you're talking about. He said, you know, the one you wrote for that magazine. I said, I write a lot of articles for magazines. I'm not sure which one you're talking about. And he said, it's a story about an old man named Leonard. I said, Leonard, I know that story. He said, you did a good job, son. I want you to know that. I said, well, thank you. I said, it's about lunchtime. Could I buy you some lunch somewhere and we could sit down and talk? He said, no, I'm an old man. I'm going home. I just came down here to meet you. I'll see you later. And he just walked out the door like a comma. And so I thought to myself when I got to Waco, Texas, I thought maybe that story does contain the essence of what veterinarians are. And maybe you people that love these people, maybe it contains the essence of whatever you do too. And I could tell you the story because I lived it, but I'm going to read it to you just like it was when the old comma-shaped veterinarian gave it to his students. So the name of the story is Leonard. Bear with me, it's a little bit long. I'll try to read it slow, but I want you to memorize it. Because when you get done here, you're going to have a test over it. And it's not going to be me that gives it to you, and it's not going to be these folks that give it to you. It's going to be all of your clients and all of your patients, and it's going to be a test that lasts for 40 years. And maybe you'll see, listen with both ears, the essence of veterinary medicine somewhere in this strange little story about a man named Leonard. I worked on Leonard horses since they were 8-year old, and now, as I approached the two geldings from across a field of West Texas clover, they were 28. Leonard was a crusty old codger who'd been a cowboy in Borden County for 75 years, is all he'd ever known. His wife had died the previous September, and they'd spent 55 years together raising cattle and living off the land. Their ranch house they spent their lives in got water from a windmill and electricity from the sun and the wind. Their lives were as fulfilling as anyone I'd ever seen. The trip across the clover to catch these two old horses was bringing tears to my eyes. The Gildings had spent their lives serving Leonard and his wife, and they'd both worn out at the same time, and it was time to put them to sleep. Leonard stayed back at the barn. He had his arms draped over the top rail of a pipe fence, and his hat was pulled down over his eyes so I couldn't see the tears that were streaming down his cheeks. Leonard had arranged for a neighbor to dig a hole under the only tree visible for miles. The plot was a perfect place for these two old Gildings to be buried. It was their favorite place to spend the day. From it, they could see their barn and get back in a hurry if need be. They could watch cars pass on a county road in the distance. They could see the cliff of the canyon to the west and watch the hawks rise the updraft. These two critters loved to be in the shade of that tree, and that's where Leonard wanted them buried. It's a tough job killing a man's best friend. All of the memories of rounding up cattle and the stories of how those horses had gotten Leonard out of a tough spot, they filled my mind as the second one was laid to rest in that hole. My trip back across the clover field to say goodbye to Leonard was a long one. I dreaded seeing his wrinkle-filled eyes full of the memories of how much he had loved those two horses. I came through the last gate and I hung the halters on their hooks in the barn, and I patted Leonard on the back and told him that it broke my heart for him to have to say goodbye to them, but I assured him it is the right thing to do. He looked up from under his hat, and the emotion of 28 years of friendship was ending on that day, and that emotion poured down his weathered cheeks. I'll be to town in a couple of days, and I'll get you paid, Doc. Thanks for coming out here and doing that. You owe me nothing, Leonard. I couldn't live with myself if I charged a man to kill his best friend. He said, but you drove 75 miles to get here today. I got to pay you something. I paused for a second. It's experiences like these that I dreamed of when I was a little kid and wanted to be a vet. I get to work with the salt of the earth people who understand the bond between humans and animals. It is the essence of what we do, and it has nothing to do with state-of-the-art equipment or making a lot of money. I kept those horses happy and going for most of their lives, and I was a part of laying them to rest when their days were done. Leonard appreciated that. He knew that taking care of critters from start to finish is simply what the local veterinarian does. I came back from that pause, and I looked over at him and I said, No, Leonard. You've been paying me for 20 years, my friend. This one is on me. So I don't hardly ever take notes or read notes whenever I talk, but I have a note at the end of that that says pause. Pause to absorb it because you're going to be tested over it for the rest of your life. Pause for the effect that whenever I applied to vet school and I had to go for the interview, they told me, don't tell them you just love animals. Well, you're done now. You're about to pass the finish line. And you can say it. You do this because you just love animals. You know, I think every graduation commencement speaker that ever gets up and talks should quote some wise philosophical person, and I'm going to. Because a long time ago, I read a quote from a guy named Metchner. And the title of the quote is The Master and the Art of Living. It goes like this: the master in the art of living makes little distinction between his work and his play, his labor and his leisure, his mind and his body, his information and his recreation, his love and his religion. He hardly knows which is which. He simply pursues his vision of excellence at whatever he does, and he leaves others trying to decide whether he is working or playing, because to him, he is always doing both. I invite all of you to come to Lamesa, Texas, and spend a day with me. I got 6 veterinarians that work with me that are all masters in the art of living, and I love them. And I hope if you come and spend a day with me, when you leave and you get on the phone and call your friends, you say, you know that Bo, I don't know if he was working or playing. He has so much fun doing what he does that every day seems wonderful there. And I'll tell you this, you call me in 10 years, wherever you might be, and say, Bo, come spend an afternoon with me. And at the end of the day, I hope I shake your hand and say, man, you're a master in the art of living. I spent the whole day trying to figure out if you were working or playing. You know, 27 years ago, I was in a place not unlike this in Texas. I walked across the stage like this, shook a couple of people's hands. I got a piece of paper. My first name changed to Doctor for the rest of my life. I made my mother call me Dr. Brock. Sometimes I still do. And when it was over, we all went out the back. And my hero was out there. His name is Elmo Brown. He was my mother's father. He was my granddad. And he come over to me and he grabbed me, and he was an old cowboy, old farmer dude. He gave me kind of the best hug that one of them kind of dudes can give. And he looked over at me and he said, Turd Head. That's what he always called me. I was 26 years old. He always called me Turd. He said, Turd Head, you've been going to school ever since I met you. And I've known you all your life. He said, I can't believe that you're finally done. And what he told me next is what I'm going to leave you with. He said, now, boy, it's time for you to get out there and amount to something. So Washington State, graduating seniors, veterinary college, soon to be doctors. That's what I'm going to leave you with. You got 17,000 hours of preparation and you still don't feel ready. But I'm going to tell you, if you want to be a master in the art of living, you've got to have passion. You've got to have compassion. You've got to have love. I'll tell you, there's one thing I'm sure of after 27 years, that old people, animals, and little kids see right through pseudo-compassion. You got to be genuine. And if you do all that, I'll tell you what will happen. You will be a master in the art of living. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Dr. Brock. It is now time for the presentation of the class. Will Dr. Brian Slinker please come forward?
You all ready for this now? So will the candidates for the degree Doctor of Veterinary Medicine please stand? It is with great pleasure that I present these candidates for advancement to the degree of Doctor of Veterinary Medicine. These candidates have been approved by the faculty of the College of Veterinary Medicine, the WSU Board of Regents, President Kirk Schulz, and me. Those candidates meeting the requirements of the State of Washington and Washington State University are hereby awarded the degree Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, which we will now present. You may be seated.
Okay, so you're already seated, that's good. It's now time for a presentation of diplomas for the Doctor of Veterinary Medicine degree. The graduates will be hooded by Dr. Steve Parrish and Kelly Farnsworth. Graduates were also given the opportunity to select a hooder of their choice. These names will be read at the presentation. So if the first row could get in place. Dusty Anderson. Dr. Carrie Rude will hood Lauren Elizabeth Aney. Dr. Jen Gold will hood Gabrielle Nicole Bears. Kimberly Baker. Claire Edlin Bartholomew. Victoria Elizabeth Bauer. Crystal Bowles. Dr. Tande Guanyama will hood Jill Carolyn Broadbent. Dr. Jane Wardrop will hood Cody Lawrence Brooks. We will now confer a posthumous degree of Doctor of Veterinary Medicine that Jessica Robin Brooks earned. Receiving the diploma is Suzanne Brooks, Jessica's mother. We want to recognize that the class of 2017 has established a scholarship for DVM students in honor and memory of Jessica. We appreciate this generous gift and thoughtful gesture. Abney Lynn Brown. Dr. Pamela Lee will hood Rebecca Hahn Tracy Brown. Dr. Annie Chen Allen will hood Jordan Elizabeth Brune. Christina Elaine Burgess. Kiersey Laree Burnett. Spencer Burnett. Nicole Marie Bush. Carrie Ann Campbell. Robert Todd Campbell. Jacob Thomas Sinaceros. Dr. Jillian Haynes will hood Ashley Cherie Call. Kelly Collins. Dr. Julie Carey will hood Nashua Compton. Kelsey Courier. Dr. Rance Sellen will hood Caitlin Mary Danielson. Leah Rose Dawson. Ashley Ann Day. Eva Louise Denka. Dr. Letitia Fanucci will hood Rachel Renata Denny. Casey Lee Drummond. Sarah Kristen Eichler. Dr. Jen Gold will hood Dominic Thomas Eichert. Dr. Dale Moore will hood Mark Abla Fagundes. Alana Marlene Farrell. Vaughn Fish. Dr. Jen Gold will hood Tanisha Lynn Ford. Dr. Tandy Gunyama will hood Morgan Foos Myrick. Jacob Robert Fulcher. Dr. Jen Gold will hood Lydia Eden Gentry. Elizabeth Gong. Dr. Linda Martin will hood Sarah Muse Gradia. Gwendolyn Colleen Graff. Aubrey Ann Gray. Bo Nicholas Green. Ray Gottheil Hamblin. Daniel Burt Harmer. Heather Morgan Hastings. Rachel Jeanette Hill. Karen Joanna Hoagland. Rayla Lee Hoffmeister. Dr. Rick DeBose will hood Jessie Ann Hawley. Kelsey Marie Hom. Our next graduate, Selena Hubacher, was not able to attend tonight. Dr. Jen Gold will hood Megan Jo Igo. Jamie Michelle Inglis. Marley Elizabeth Iredale. Martha Ann Jackson. Jared Benjamin Johnson. Dr. Bridie Gillespie will hood Jessica Marie Jones. Dr. Steve Parrish will hood Naomi Vivian May Leilani Kamakau. Julie Marie King. Dr. Don Knowles will hood Jessica Renee Kenya. Dr. Bonnie Campbell will hood Hillary Margaret Koenigs. Jason Aaron Karogli. Dr. Jen Gold will hood Danielle Virginia Kurkowski. Dr. Rick DeBose will hood Mary Elizabeth Linker. Dr. Jane Wardrop will hood Kyla Lori Ma. Cameron Jean Mandel. Jordan Aaron Marcus. Catherine Michelle Martucci. Abby Elizabeth Matthias. Jeffrey James McGee. Danielle Virginia Myers. Dr. Steve Hines will hood Philip John Walter Mick. Dr. Patricia Talcott will hood Tina Ann Miller. Allie Marie Moran. Dr. Letitia Fanucci will hood Elizabeth Marie Morley. Dr. Julie Carey will hood Michelle Louise Monk. Amanda Kathleen Murdoch. Myra Jean Newkirk. Lauren Normando. Isadora Mary O'Brien. Anna Alyssa Odash. Joshua Lawrence Packer. Dr. Hillary Greeting will hood Lance Willard Parker. Dr. Margaret Davis will hood Claire Ellen Pawlikowski. Nicole Ann Parasho. Sammy Joe Perkins. Marina Louise Pierce. Dr. Tammy Grubb will hood Catherine Danaher Reardon. Mark Joseph Robinson. Kayla Rushing. Heidi Leanne Russ. Carson Sakamoto. Kristen Sakurai. Marie Natividad Salazar. Sierra Dawn Salopek. Holly Mae Sawyer. Dr. Leslie Sprunger will hood Margaret Hayes Schroeder. Nicole Ann Schwinkendorf. Kristen Slattery. Jessica Marie Smalley. Christina Lynn Sparlin. Kristen Patterson Stone. Dr. Jen Gold will hood Jonike Swanson. Dr. Jen Gold will hood Erin Christine Trusky. Dr. Rick DeBose will hood Lindsay Alexander Urquhart. Dr. Rusty Stott will hood Catherine Lee Van Dusen. Our next graduate, Jacob Joseph Van Dyke, was not able to attend. And Dr. George Barrington will hood Julia Lynn Vanderford. Nicole Vega. Dr. Bonnie Campbell will hood Karen Elizabeth Beckman. Dr. Rusty Stott will hood Katie Lynn Velez. Dr. Jane Wardrop will hood Jessica Villum. Annie Melissa Vogel. Lauren Michelle Waldorf. Dr. Carrie Rude will hood Annika J. Ward. Zachary John Wermenhoven. Catherine Melissa Warner. Lauren Jean Watson. Dr. George Barrington will hood Nathan Whiting. Marie Kristen Whitbeck. Dr. Hilliard Greeting will hood Hillary Lorraine Wright. Samantha Ann Zakrosco. Will the new doctors of veterinary medicine please rise? Place your tassel to the left, signifying your new status as graduate doctors. Dr. Rance Sullen will now lead you in the veterinary oath.
Oops. Will all other doctors of veterinary medicine please rise and join our new colleagues in reciting with me the veterinarian's oath as it appears in the program. Being admitted to the profession of veterinary medicine, I solemnly swear to use my scientific knowledge and skills for the benefit of society through the protection of animal health and welfare, the prevention and relief of animal suffering, the conservation of animal resources, the promotion of public health, and the advancement of medical knowledge. I will practice my profession conscientiously, with dignity, and in keeping with the principles of veterinary medical ethics. I accept as a lifelong obligation the continual improvement of my professional knowledge and competence. Class of 2017, congratulations, and please be seated.
Thank you, Dr. Sullen. It is now my pleasure to introduce our last speaker of the evening, who will be delivering the farewell address, Dr. Tammy Grubb.
Uh-oh. Houston, we have a problem. Thank you. Oh. Whoa! Wow. Well, I thought I was going to get to hide from you, but clearly, thanks, fix that. So I'm kind of excited because I'm the first one that gets to call you doctors. So congratulations, doctors. Yeah, I think so too. Very cool. And I know you guys think it's almost over. Everybody thinks it's almost over, right? You've learned everything that you can learn. You have a diploma. Well, it comes in the mail, but you're gonna get a diploma. And I have to say, and I don't want to be a downer, but it's actually just beginning. So you've learned a lot, but there's a lot more to learn when you enter practice. And I'm speaking from experience, and I think that all of the veterinarians in this auditorium would agree that you have a lot to learn. A lot is coming when you enter practice. That first 6 months or year, you won't believe how much you learn. And the reason that there's still learning to be done is because there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom. And we have given you all the knowledge we can. We have stuffed your heads full of knowledge. And I was the same way when I graduated from veterinary school. I had all of this knowledge. I was so smart, I thought. And I took a position in a mixed animal practice in a small town. And with all of this knowledge, I was going to educate everybody in the whole town about everything to do with veterinary medicine. So when I started seeing clients, needless to say, my exam times were a little too long. And it's not because I was slow. I was a new graduate, so okay, partly that, but mostly because I was spending my time spewing my knowledge to these clients about what disease their pet had and what drug we would use, and I made handouts. Yeah, you're laughing because you know my handouts, lots of exclamation points and some bold words and some underlined stuff. Everybody got a handout. And I was doing great. That's what I thought. And then it came time for recheck time, and those same clients that I had just seen weren't asking to see me again. And in fact, they were asking to see the more experienced veterinarians in our practice, and it wasn't because they didn't like me, at least that's what they said. They said they liked me, but they didn't want to see me. And the ones that did want to see me didn't read my handout. I mean, there were only 8 pages apiece. I don't know how hard it could be, but nobody read it. And in fact, they were asking me the same questions that they had asked me in the first exam. So when my employer pulled me aside to tell me how I was really doing, she said, "Tammy, you're not solving their problems." And I said, "What? I'm giving them all this knowledge. And sometimes their pet doesn't have the problem that they think it had when they brought it in." And she said, "You're not solving their problems. You're not listening." Ouch. So that kind of hurt a bit. So I called my dad, what all girls do when somebody hurts your feelings, you call dad, right? My dad's really wise, always gives good advice. And he shared with me a quote of his that he really likes. And it's from Oliver Wendell Holmes Sr. And I'm like, Dr. Brock, you got to quote somebody, right, if you're going to give a speech. And this one that my dad sent to me says, "It is the province of knowledge to speak. It is the privilege of wisdom to listen." And I guess I'd never really thought about the difference between knowledge and wisdom before. So I kind of soaked on that a little bit. I don't know if I changed right away, but I started to think. And then there was this Saturday, and I'd been on call Friday night. I was exhausted. I was still on call Saturday. I was so tired, I didn't think I could move, so I decided that I was not going into the vet clinic unless it was a true life or death emergency. I wasn't going to go. And of course, at that exact moment, the phone rang. Of course, at that moment, right? Timing's everything. And on the other end of the line is a woman's voice, a very concerned woman's voice. And she said, "Doc, I think my cat has a strangling worm." And I said, "A what?" She said, "Oh, you're the new vet." She said, "A strangling worm, Doc. You know those worms that strangle cats?" And all this knowledge comes bubbling to the top, and I'm ready to shout out, "There's no such thing as a strangling worm." But for those of you that know Jeff Foxworthy, the comedian, I followed his rule, and that was actually the first thing I thought, but not the first thing I said. What I said was, "Can you tell me why you think your cat has a strangling worm? Is he doing poorly?" She said, "No, Doc, actually he's doing pretty good. He eats well, he ate this morning, his hair coat's shiny, he's happy." But intermittently over the last several days, and a lot this morning, he does this really weird thing. He stretches out his neck, and he closes his eyes, and he opens his mouth, and he goes, Sorry, Dr. Sorry to Dr. Well, it's a good thing it's almost over. So we kind of all probably know what's up with the cat. We know it's not an emergency on a Saturday. We know there's no such thing as a strangling worm. We know I'm tired, but what do you think I did? Yeah, I went to the vet clinic and dewormed the cat. It's kind of embarrassing, but really it was medically valid because the cat hadn't been dewormed. And I used my wisdom and didn't tell her there was no such thing as a strangling worm. But I did tell her that there might be other things the cat could have, and I did send her home with something to treat hairballs. Absolutely, something to treat hairballs. But why did I go? I went because I needed to treat her problem, right? And it wasn't her problem that there's no such thing as a strangling worm. It wasn't her problem that I was tired. It was her problem that her cat needed help. She really cared about her cat. She called me on the phone. She wanted me to care about her cat. She was willing to pay for the emergency call. So I really think that it was that day, that's why I remember it so well. I think it was that day that I treated a strangling worm that I started to become a really good veterinarian because I learned how to use wisdom. And I want to give you guys your last test that you'll ever have to take at WSU. Dr. Brock's right, there's a lot of tests to come, but you have one more with us. This is it, last one. We have about a minute together. We'll take a test. 2 questions only. Okay, you can sit out. Everybody else has to take the test. The first question's on knowledge, and the topic is, I know what you guys think it's going to be, multimodal analgesia, because I've never given a talk without saying those words. For the people in the audience that don't know, I'm an anesthesiologist, and stamping out pain is my job. So now I've said the words, and that's actually not the topic. The topic is tomatoes. It's tomatoes. So using your knowledge, I want you guys to tell me, is a tomato a vegetable or a fruit? Yeah, it's a fruit, right? I still don't understand why, but it's a fruit. So with the knowledge that a tomato is a fruit, would you put it in a fruit salad? No, tomatoes are for salsa, and that's wisdom. So thank you guys very much. Thanks for letting me speak to you about tomatoes. And I want to thank everybody else. Thanks for coming. It's been such a special evening for all of us. And good luck, safe travels home, and welcome to the profession, doctors.
Thank you, Dr. Grubb. Everyone is invited to join the new graduates at a reception in the concourse immediately following the ceremony. Thank you all for coming tonight, and have a wonderful evening.